Welcome to the Lighthouse Freedom Podcast. Today, we are talking about what is going on in the world. A lot of crazy stuff happening that's affecting all of our lives, and it's important that you don't be ignorant to it. Don't ignore it. We're going to dive in. Looking forward to it. Talk about having like real things. Like you got to take this fake paper that you're making and fucking go buy real shit with it.
Yep.
And I think, God, people are so obsessed with saving this fake stuff in this account. Like it's
that
travesty.
false sense of security.
It's that bad information that we were talking about, like that terrible information that's just like save your money. It's like, I'm not saying go out and buy a freaking RV, but what I am saying is like go out and buy something that's real, buy assets, right? That are appreciating, that hold their value, that you can see, feel, touch. That's why I love real estate. I mean, I'm in the stock market. I have crypto and stuff like that, but those are paper assets.
Yeah.
Those can go, we've seen that this year. I mean, those can go to zero real quick.
Yeah.
You know, and Jeremy and I are doing something in February where we're helping these traders get into commercial real estate because they understand how to make a lot of these paper assets and trade a lot of these paper assets, even when a market goes down. Like they short the fuck out of the market and make a ton of money. But then ultimately, like it's a very volatile way to build wealth. Is strictly in stocks and crypto. Eventually, you have to take that money out and you have to go buy something real. Yeah. You have to, in my opinion. I guess that's my opinion. I mean, I'm not a particularly smart guy, but at the end of the day, like I own this office building. We're in this building right now. I mean, I have a tenant downstairs that pays the mortgage and the expenses.
Right.
You know, and we occupy upstairs. This is a real thing.
Yeah.
And it's got a value to it.
Right.
I don't know.
Buy something real, and it doesn't have to be like Adam is a great person to bounce ideas off of. Yeah. Because he's going to ask those questions like, and he asked me the same, but what's the cash flow? And he's got this really cool project that he's talking about doing that I do want to get involved in. And, the big ask is how are we going to cash flow it? What are we going to do to create cash flow monthly? And it's like, again, you're going to have things that you want to do for your family that's going to be experiential, right? Like a boat. I bought a boat and not recently, but when I did, it was brand new. And I was a little bit scared to do it, but like, dude, that's experiences. And we go out to the lake every weekend during the summer, and it's hours upon hours, nights upon nights. We stay out till my son likes to wakeboard and he surfs behind the boat. And dude, we'll go out and, have barbecue on the boat until dark at 9 in summer on a Tuesday. Yeah. Well, I invested in the experience. Yeah. Some people look at that and be like, you idiot. It's at the time it's a 2013 boat. It's a Malibu, one of the nicest you could buy. Yes, I did. And my father-in-law at the time was like, Houston, come on, man. That's kind of keeping up with the Joneses. I'm like, cool. I'll see you Monday. Yeah. I'm going out. Right. And it's an experience. And now Hudson started competing in wakeboarding, doing all sorts of other stuff came from that by letting go of the money. Yep. It's okay. Right.
Yep. And spending it on experiences is not because listen, guys, we're on this freaking blue marble spinning around a giant ball of gas. Like you don't know how long this shit's going to last. Yeah. Especially as good as we got it now. Yeah. We talk about like the time that we're in, like we're in look at what we're doing right now. I mean, we're just in such an incredible time to be alive. Like, and you need to be having experiences. You need to be having new experiences with new people. Yeah. You need to be, getting out into the world, get out of the metaverse, get into the universe and start having some experiences. Amen. Cause they're making that metaverse more and more appealing for folks. And you're starting to see that wave of the people that are going to ultimately they're making what's happening right now is they're suppressing the middle class, right? And so the middle class is being suppressed into poverty. So now there's just going to be two classes, the haves and the have-nots. Excuse me. And it's either steak or bugs, right? You're either eating steak or you're going to be eating bugs. Yeah. And if you don't recognize that that's happening right now through the intentional destruction of the economy, which is done through printing trillions and trillions of dollars, right? And also laundering a shit ton of money for a very elite few that are just choosing to launder that money that they're printing, right? Which is apparent and shit's coming out now. You got people who are part of this laundering that are just spontaneously dying, these crypto billionaires that are now just like dropping dead for crazy reasons because the people that were making a ton of money off of this laundering, which is when they send the money to Ukraine and nobody can account for it, and then it gets funneled through FTX, and then the whoever benefits from the FTX rise, and then they have a fall guy, right? Yeah. And then all these other fall guys are just dropping dead.
Right.
Now it's not traceable back to them.
Right.
The same thing with they did the same thing with Jeffrey Epstein, right? And that just gets into the child sex trafficking of the whole pedophilia part of it is different than the whole money laundering part of it, because the pedophilia part of it is very apparent, very real.
Yeah.
People don't like to admit it, right? They don't like to admit that kids are being, done. But we just saw this, God, what's that company that just came out with that ad that just Balenciaga? Yeah. Just the elite thing and they just throw it right in people's faces, and they don't give a fuck about it because people are just, number one, ignorant to it. Number two, just don't want to admit that it's real, that it's happening, that the wealthiest of the wealthy are just trafficking children and having sex with minors. And
it's so foreign to them, right? Yeah. They can't wrap their minds around it. So you just kind of steer clear. I don't want to look into that. It was in the crypto space, I think it was the fourth crypto self-made billionaire, was just found dead on a beach.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is crazy stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean,
and what's funny is, this is the only difference between conspiracy and the truth is 6 months time, right? You just give it time and then it comes out as the truth. So right now, people saying like all these, if anybody thinks anything that has happened over the past 3 years is still conspiracy, you're just choosing to ignore it, or it's what we talked about where you're so attached to the identity that you may have bought into at one point that the idea that something else is happening creates that cognitive dissonance in your mind and you immediately reject it.
Yeah.
And that's what is going on, I think. But a lot of people are waking up and realizing that, all right, they've been duped, right? Yeah. We've been lied to for the past couple of decades, in my opinion, about whatever is really going on behind the curtains. And there's a small group of very, very wealthy people that control a lot of the same companies that own a lot of the subsidiaries that are pushing a lot of the stuff down and through the media channels and then through Hollywood.
Yep.
And all that stuff, now that we have social media, we can all start to talk. And now that information, which we didn't have 20 years ago, right? Now all that information is now, those dots are being connected by people that are just asking questions. At the end of the day, just ask some fucking questions, right? Just ask maybe why, or who, or who stands to benefit, or where's the money going?
Like, follow the money.
Like, who's benefiting from this? Like, just be a little fucking inquisitive about what's going on in the world, right? Because if you're not, you're choosing the life of ignorance, and then no one can help you. You can't even help yourself if you're just choosing to live in ignorance and not admitting that there's evil, because there is good and there is evil. And a lot of people don't like to think that there's evil in the world, and they prefer to think that everybody's good, and that's a crock of shit. I mean, you'd like to think there's good people in the world, and there are.
Sure.
But there are fucking evil people too.
Yeah, there are. We actually just watched the Epstein, one of the documentaries on Epstein, and that's chilling. I mean, it's bone chilling.
Yeah.
The stuff that they did, the stuff that he did, stuff that his partner did, for years. But they're elitist, and so it was able to go, not unnoticed, but it was able to go on for so long because people would kind of turn a blind eye to it.
Sure.
Right. But insert that into a lot of other scenarios with the money, the laundering. Something you sent me the other day was like, $2 billion goes missing from the Pentagon, and it's like, whoop, I don't really know what happened.
Trillion.
Sorry, $2 trillion. But yeah, I Venmo'd you $600 and something dollars. But so when you report to that, it's
report
like,
that.
Wow.
It's just, there's just
really backwards.
Yeah. It's just kind of lack of accountability. Yeah. And that's what needs to come back is the people who are doing this stuff. I don't want to incite violence on this podcast, but they need to be made an example of because it's treasonous behavior. And their intent, they're stealing from people, but nobody knows it's stealing nobody wants to admit that it's stealing because they're not coming to your house and taking money out of your wallet.
Yeah.
But when they drop billions of digits into a bank account and then send it out and then launder it and then push all that currency back into the economy, it's making what's in your pocket worth less and less. They are fucking stealing.
Correct.
And like nobody wants to say anything.
Right.
And it's part of it. I've had this conversation with a lot of people, and a lot of it is just, well, they're too big to fight at this point. It's like we're in the sandbox that's been laid out for us, and I'm in a position now where it's like I'm just gonna play the game as long as I can.
Yeah.
That's able to be played.
Yeah.
versus taking up arms against, these people that, I mean, you don't know a lot of their names. You know a few of them, and a lot of them work at the World Economic Forum. You got BlackRock. You got a lot of these investment firms that own a lot of the subsidiaries. But, it's like, what can you do when it's that corrupt and that deep? Besides start to drain the swamp and see what kind of creatures are living in it, which is what Trump did, which is why they forced him out.
Right.
But you hit the nail on the head with asking questions, right? That whole Epstein example that you gave. How come we can't see anything from that trial, but they will live stream a fucking Johnny Depp trial and everybody watches that shit, right? Posts and shit. Everybody watches it. But the second we want to know something about something that may involve some people with some big names and some blue check marks and some fucking people that are on TV that are telling us
criminal activity.
Yep.
Intense.
We can't get any information about that.
Right.
But here is a live stream into a trial about fucking Johnny Depp.
Right.
And they use Hollywood as a big, and that's crumbling too now with Elon taking over Twitter. We're kind of in a current events episode right now, but let's roll with it, because I think Elon taking over Twitter has done quite a bit. Even him just releasing these recent documents about how they suppressed the Hunter Biden laptop.
Yeah.
Him taking over has just started to pull back the curtain on how much that false narrative, or that narrative, has been propagated through social media channels and perpetuated through bots, and the alternative narrative has been suppressed, right? That is now coming to light, and I'm hoping like that has got to be like the last straw with fucking the American people, just to finally like unify and realize we're not all in these different buckets that they tell us we're in.
Right.
It's not black, white, gay, straight, brown, yellow. We're not all in these different buckets. We are the people, and it's us versus them that look at you as like a fucking ant. Yeah. And until we realize that, like, it's just going to continue, and we're just going to keep getting just freaking pounded. And it may, because I just, not enough people are waking up at enough of a rapid pace for this to turn, because it takes a collective. Yeah. And it also takes the ultimate rebellion to avoid being the ant and eating bugs is personal excellence, right? And it's they want you fat, they want you weak, they want you lazy, they want you broke, they want you stupid. So in order to rebel, you have to do the opposite of those things, right? You have to be strong, you have to be smart, you have to be wealthy, you have to be fit, you have to be all these things. And that is a culture thing, because the culture of America now has been this weak, victimized, they're grooming kids and talking about, nobody's got a freaking gender anymore. I mean, they're just perpetuating all this shit to sort of weaken the male species in particular, so that then we're just controllable, because the weaker you are, the more you're able to be controlled. Yeah. And we've gone down a serious rabbit hole, but I think it's really important.
It is important,
because without understanding what we're just talking about with the last 20 minutes of what we just talked about, the freedom and the business shit that we're talking about doesn't matter, right? Because you're not going to have the opportunity to do what we're talking about doing. You won't have the opportunity to buy real estate. You won't have the opportunity to build a sales company and sell the medical devices and the big ticket items. You won't have the opportunity to make millions of dollars and build multiple streams of income if we're in a communist freaking, which is what is the goal, is to get us into this one world government and totalitarian, technocratic, everybody lives in a headset type shit. Yeah. And fucking say no at every juncture you can. Yeah. Reject that shit. Yeah. And they're going to run the play again. And it's going to be when their back's against the wall is when they're going to run the create as much chaos as possible. Yeah. And just make sure you stand firm and focus on your core values and what I said about that personal excellence thing, and the rest will take care of itself. Amen, man.
It's a rabbit hole, but it's a rabbit hole that needs to be taken.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're talking in the next episode, right, about being a forever student and always learning. Yeah. And I think we got into this talk about the current events because specifically, if you don't have the availability to learn new information and go out and seek and learn new information, right, you will always be a part of the system and be controlled to the extent in which you are not seeking new information. Yeah. And the successful people in this world are just forever students.